So I'll take a look at this one now. It's just going to be a general clean up and test, I think, with this one, and an AV mod. So yeah, I'll strip the shell off and stuff, perhaps give you a quick look inside if there's anything to see, you know, anything different perhaps. I'm expecting it's going to be very dirty because you can see a lot of muck there. Yeah, it looks pretty filthy. So yeah, absolutely filthy. It's almost like soil in this thing. It's yeah, it's pretty dirty. Yeah, and as expected, that board's looking pretty dirty, actually. Look at the state of that. So the best way to clean the cart slot actually is to fold some paper, get some IPA onto the edge there. You can just, like I say, just put it on like that, just get it all over the edge, and then just move it short a little bit. Just as long as your paper's thick enough, not too thick, you should be able to push it into the slot there. It feels like you're pushing a cart in, and just move it up and down a little bit like that. You can see that's the best way, really. Sometimes a little bit of card actually is better, or just do it at an angle like that rather than straight in, because you've not got as much, you know, there's not as many pins gripping it at the same time. It's a bit easier to stick in and out. But if you just do a bit of this all the way along there, and then do the same thing with the dry end, and that should do the job. It can be quite difficult getting into the corners there, but I mean, look, can you see the blackness on the edge there? It's really dirty. So I'll go over this a few times, and then finally perhaps get the vacuum on there as well, just to get any bits of dust out. But yeah, you can see, you know, that was really dirty, that slot. So I've got that one connected up again with this test controller, and as you'll hear, it works. So yeah, it isn't that chip, it wasn't that chip, it was just coincidence that, like I said, I tested it with a second controller, and that was doing exactly the same thing. So I do have two of these controllers now that I'm going to need to get a chip for, I think, because I think it's going to be chips inside. The cable seems to be alright, you know. I've messed around with the cables to try and simulate or, you know, affect the problem, see if I can get it working just by moving it, but it doesn't make a difference. So I don't think it's the cables, I do think it's the chip. So as you can see, I've been cleaning up one of the cases here and 6 of the controllers, so yeah, the fascias are not great. I've ordered some replacement fascias to try on a couple. I picked the worst ones. I think one of them's got one missing, one of the other controllers is not shown here. But yeah, there's some marks there. I need to clean off with plastic cleaner and stuff. These, as I've shown, you can flip them round if you look on that side. It's kind of yellowed, whereas that side is nice and white. These, I think it's yellowed on both sides, worse on one side than the other, but I can clean them up with some plastic cleaner, I think, those two. Everything's just drying, really. You can see we've got 12 sets, 6 sets of buttons here, 12 buttons. Yeah, so once all this stuff dries, I can start reassembling, but I'm going to need to replace all of the silicons, actually, because pretty much all of them are shot. So one thing I noticed whilst testing, actually, just one of the controllers here, the Player 2 controllers, you can see the carbon's completely worn off. It's like someone's had a go at using sandpaper or something, you know, maybe just over cleaned it with IPA, but you know, that's what you've got to be careful of. You don't want to remove these black pads here. I mean, this is like a carbon sort of stuff. This is resistive, I think that's how it works. And you've got the 2 contacts on the underneath the switch. Let me think about this. I think it goes this way. So as you get to this position here, maximum, I think both of those are shorted, and as you pull it across, when it gets to about this position here, I think, yeah, I think this pad becomes, so you know, when you've got the volume on, these 2 traces, you know, it's a variation, you know, a resistance between these 2 traces, these 2 connections here, that set your volume. But as soon as you get across here, I think it shorts this connection here to that top one there, so it's the bottom one to the top one. I think that's how it works. So this just makes sound all the time. It's really annoying. So I think what I'm going to do is put a piece of copper tape across there up to where that top trace is supposed to end, so that at least I can switch it off, and then when I move it a tiny bit to the left, the volume should come on. I think I might need to put a piece of copper trace here as well. It's going to be maxed, the volume, you know, it's either going to be off or on. The slider's not going to do anything, because normally, like I say, you'll get a resistance as you slide it. But yeah, I think I'm going to need a couple of pieces of copper tape on there. I'll start with that top one, just to see if I can get the thing to mute when it's off. So So you can see what I did there. Just added my own 2 traces. This one at the top here is, like I said, that's the main sort of resistive trace. It is joined all the way across, but the connection to here acts as a pot, if you like. So that I've got no range on this. It's just the mic is on all the time, but it's on low sensitivity. So if you tap it or shout, talk quite loudly into it, you can hear sound, but it's not interfering with the TV when you're not making any loud noise directly into the mic. It's on its lowest sensitivity setting, basically, just by joining that trace up. Yeah, I mean, I could have just done that with a bit of wire or something, but I mean, you can actually still slide the pot along. There's nothing else you can do with that, really, but yeah, at least it's making this so that the controller can actually be used, and it's not making like a loud buzzing noise like it was before. So what I've done with the switch here is taken a spare SNES switch apart. You can see I've been bending these brackets here to try and get them to fit, because if you look, the profile's the same, it's just upside down. I've obviously been bending these so it doesn't quite fit now, it's slightly out because these have been bent out a bit, but actually it's like the inverse profile of this one. If you look at this here, if you put them next to each other, so the tops are flat, it's the brackets are at the bottom instead of the top. So yeah, it's a bit fiddly. I did, you did experiment trying to mount them like that, and then just using the length of the screws to support it in place. But then this catches on the metal bracket, with it being stuck up a bit, because normally, like I say, these are sunk down, so the plastic thing here can go right up to the switch, as you can see. So the other thing I did is I take this apart. If you remember in the previous video, there was just like this black plastic piece in here with nothing else. The contact was missing. So what I've just done, as you can see, just borrowed that contact, and what it does is just a piece of copper there that just sort of slides over 2 of them. I don't know if I can get it back on. It's a bit difficult because this has been warped to the metal here. Hang on, there you go. Yeah, and as you slide the switch, it slides it across the contacts to join this pair or that pair. So, and it's just exactly the right size. It's perhaps just a bit small, but as you can see, it fits in there, and I've just tested it on my meter, and actually it works. So if I just hold it together, there's no definitive snap feel, but it slides on and off, and the continuity makes and breaks from the relevant contact. This one's got a ball bearing in the inside. Can you see these little notches here? And it's like 2 ball bearings with a spring in between, and as you slide it, it gives you that nice distinctive click there as the ball bearing snaps between that position and that position. But I think that this one, like I say, it's not got a ball bearing in it, but it doesn't look to be designed that way. It's just the contact. So I think if I just crimp these really tight now and solder it back on, it should work. So as you can see, I've got some of these stickers that I mentioned in previous videos actually, and they're quite good. The quality doesn't look that great from a distance because it's got a protective cover on it. I forgot what they call it now. So you can and a removal film, so you can you remove the backing first of all and stick it down and then pull the film off, and it's done. It's like they're made of vinyl. You can hear that with my nail. Yeah, they're made of vinyl. So I got one for the Player 1 controller, one for the Player 2. I thought we'll give these a go. Now there's an obvious candidate, and that's this one over here that's not got a fascia, so that's okay for the start, the Player 1 with a start button, select button. That's the controller I'm going to use. I might ultimately take the controller and put it into a different console, but then what I need to do now is find one where the second controller is pretty shot. Now that one's pretty good actually, that's in good condition. That one's a bit worn. That one's really worn actually, probably worse than that one I would say, and this one is perhaps the worst one actually, because it's not even got the A and B if you look at that. So I think I'll probably go with that one as the Player 2 controller, swap them around, stick the I'm going to juggle these around anyway. I think I'll probably end up sticking this Player 2 with this Player 1 because they're pretty good actually, then you've got 2 relatively good ones together, and just pair them up that way. And I might, if these work out okay, I might then go around and replace some of these others like those. So there we go, swap the controllers around. I'll start with this one because that's the easy one, isn't it? I'll just wipe this surface here with some IPA, just make sure it's totally clean, and then we'll get the first one on there. So, and as I say, this is not absolutely required because these do look really good just with the red background there. Once you remove all the glue and stuff, once you get rid of the sticker that's already there, they do look pretty damn good just in red. So I could always just do that to a couple of the others, get rid of the fascias on the ones that are really bad. Yeah, it will sort of make the plastic look a little bit white when using IP on this, just until you've polished it afterwards. But it is important to do this just to get anything off the surface there before I stick the sticker on. So I'll just inspect that really closely and then have a go at sticking it on. So I've taken the fascia off there. You can see this has got a backing film. You can see it's like the sticker's on the backing film here. So it's just going to be a case of just peeling it like that, I think, and then very carefully trying to align this in the right position. It's not the easiest thing to do, actually. It might help if I could peel a bit of the backing film off the sticker. Let's just see if I can just do that. If I could just expose the end of it here a little bit. Yeah, I don't want to fold it, that's the problem. I don't want to get a crease into it. It's not going to be the easiest thing to do this, because the transfer film, can you see it's like, just peel that up a little bit. I don't think I'm going to have any choice here but to try and peel it off a bit. So I might have to do this off camera. It's a case of peel the back off here, and then what I want to do is try and separate this here at this stage. Now, you're not supposed to do it this way around, but one of the problems I'm going to have, or I'm already having, I should say, is because of the opaque transfer film part, the front part, you can't see through it clearly enough in order to see what the hell you're doing. But as you can see now, I should be able to at least get this lined up properly. It's going to take a bit of practice, I think. I might have to a bit of trial and error there just to try and get it. There we go, that's not so bad. And it's important to get it in just the right spot, because if you don't get it just the right spot, it's going to snag on the D-pad. You're not going to get it fitting perfectly. There's probably easier ways of doing this. This is the first one of these I've tried, so yeah, trial and error is certainly required, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do this off camera, I think. So, would I recommend these? No, I don't think I would, actually. I think they're good. There's a couple of problems with these. You can see, first of all, as I've gone over this with a cloth here and just gradually tried to massage, you can see, it bubbles up around the edges. It's not quite cut right. I would suggest whoever makes these, if he added an extra half a millimetre or a millimetre width on the cutouts for all these parts here, it would fit a lot flatter. But you can see, it's right up to the bottom of the D-pad here. Sorry, I know it's not focusing very well. It's right up to the bottom of the D-pad here. Yeah, at the top you can see we've got it's rippled. You can see that little rippled edge. It's right up against the side of it. So it's like there's no room for movement, and you can see that just from putting the cloth on there, you can see some of the inks come off. So it's like, yeah, these are, it's printed. There's no protective layer, and you can see just a bit there where it's scratched off. So I'm going to need to touch that up with a light blue ink or something. God, it's not focusing at all, is it? So I'm not sure whether it looked better just plain red, if I'm completely honest, because you can see the ripples here on these buttons, which suggests it's too far onto the left. But it's like, say, if you look at it here, it's right up to the side of the D-pad there. There's no gap. So, and I imagine that if I've managed to make these two scratches here, sorry, it's not focusing. If I've managed to make these two scratches here just from wiping it with this, I suspect over a very short period of time the ink is going to come off, I think. In fact, it's coming off there now. Can you see that where I've just wiped that? I might get it on macro in a minute, but it's faded here already. So, yeah, it was a good test, but I'm not sure that that's going to last, and I'm not sure I'm happy with the results, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to stick with these, to be honest. I've pulled the fascia off this one here because that was absolutely shot. There's not a lot you can do with it, really. It just looks awful. But by the time this is polished up, I think it'll look all right, actually. It's a shame there's a hole there. That's the main thing, isn't it? I think there's one on this one as well. Yeah, you got a hole there. But does this look better than just red? I'm not so sure, because let's say it's really easy to scratch it. You know, the paint, the ink comes off really, really easily. And even if I had adjusted it up further this way, which is what looks to be what's required, because if you look here, so we've got a gap there. We haven't got any gap here. So if I shifted this more to the right, problem is this is already further. You know, it's right up against the inside here, as it is, so there's no room for movement there. It's like I'd have to chop off about 1 millimetre off this side in order to get it to fit perfectly. And it's a similar thing with here. You know, the ripples at the top here, suggest that it perhaps needs moving up a little bit. Now it's right up to the edge here. You know, you can see that. I've looked through the magnifying glass here. It's right up to the very edge of the D-pad, so there's just no room for movement. It does, as I mentioned earlier, it does need like 0.5 millimetre or 1 millimetre cutting out around all these holes to give you extra space. And then I would also suggest taking off 0.5 millimetre around the whole edge of the thing, and then it should fit perfectly. So I might just suggest that to the guy that makes these, see if there's anything he can do there to cut them a slightly different size, because they're not ideal as they are, but you know, they look alright. You could also perhaps do with an extra protective film or something to stop you from scratching the ink off like that really, really easily. So exactly the same problem with the Player 2. You can see, just get this right light, you can see it's rippled up here, it's right off the top here, yeah, it's right down at the very bottom, can't go any further down, and it's off the right hand side. So they're fractionally too big. That's the problem. I mean, if you stuck this down on top of the existing face plate, it might fit better, because then it would be on top of, you know, where's it gone now, the thickness of this thing here. And that's perhaps the way it has been designed to sit on top of one of these. So I would suggest, if you're considering getting these, don't remove the old thing here, you know, the old face plate, and stick it on top of it, because you'll get a better fit. Because I think, you know, that'll pull this, the thickness of this here will probably be at the same level as the plastic, so then you won't have that edge overhanging like that and going up the sides and things like it is doing. It perhaps just will you know, it's going to overhang a little bit on one side, but it shouldn't ripple. But yeah, I think I'm going to remove those. It's a bit of a costly experiment really, because these worked out about £4 each or something. It might be a bit more than that, I think, with shipping. Yeah, so not that pleased with them really. I just want to show you how easy the ink's coming off. Can you see here? It's a little bit faded. Can you see that? And all I've done here is just put this cloth on here and just try and press into that corner a little bit, and you know, the ink, as you can see, has come off there. So yeah, they're coming off. They're just shit. Well, I've got a naughty seller here actually. I've just put back on a different controller here. If I just switch this on, just listen. You can hear it. In fact, I'll just point you to the screen as well actually. There you go, you can see we've got screen up, switch it off, switch it on. So you just get like a little click, there's no sound, that's normal, you know, there's no noise. If I now just disconnect, I've just disconnected that one, and plug in this replacement Player 2, you know, so it looks good as new. As you can see here, it's this one. And I'll switch it on now, just listen to this, hang on. Humming. Now I've just had this apart, there's nothing wrong with the slider. The slider's nice and clean, so the chip on there that's feeding that sound output through the, you know, the connection here, there's a fault on it, I think. So I think we've got a faulty controller. Yeah, I'll be complaining about that. It's like it's on. It's not on all the time. It's on now, I think. Yeah. So I got the lid off there now. I think it's the CMOS chip here, 4069. In case you're wondering, the 40 at the beginning is the clue. The CMOS chips, they will start with 40, well, generally. There's lots of other different types of CMOS chips, but yeah, standard sort of CMOS logic and stuff like that, it'll start with 40 as opposed to like TTL, which starts with 74 something. So I suspect, like I say, it's that 4069. I mean, it could be the cable. I don't think so. I mean, I've had a good wiggle of the cable. It's not making any difference at all. You just get that constant buzzing. Now there is a cap across here. I wonder if that cap's gone high ESR. I wonder if it's worth checking that cap. When you can see, you've got some flux here around it as well. maybe over time that started to conduct or something. I might just try cleaning around that chip there. I don't know, consider swapping that cap. I thought it would just be worth showing you this actually. Watch, if I just damp my finger and just put it just near the plus there, hang on, just those couple of pins, can you hear it's gone quiet? And then if I now put the contacts back on here, and you can hear the mic, can you hear that? So it's working. So yeah, I suspect that cap is 0.33 microfarads. Let's try taking it out and swapping it, and I might measure it just to see what it measures. So the other thing I'll just quickly show you here, I've shown you this before actually in other videos. Can you see the crack? We've got a crack across there, so ultimately that will just shatter and come to pieces. If you stick a cable tie around it, sometimes it's worth super gluing it first actually, but in this instance it is just a split, it's not actually come apart completely. We'll stick that on there and then just use your cutters, don't just snip it off, but just put a bit of force like that. You can see there, just to get it nice and tight. Move it around a bit as you need to. Just make sure it's as tight as it possibly can be before you snip it off. That's pretty tight actually. That's going to hold that in place, so we'll just slide it down, tie a little bit, snip off the end like that. So after I put a bit of epoxy on the underside where those 3 pins were on the switch, that stabilised it and it set rock solid, so that the 3 pins, you know, the 3 little plates inside, they can't just wobble around like that as you move the cables, you know, they're absolutely stiff in place. And I had to actually take it apart again actually, because some of the epoxy just seeped inside and made the whole thing so you couldn't switch it on and off. But after I just, you know, took it apart again, just chipped off that bit of epoxy from the inside, made sure that the 3 metal plates were nice and clean. As you can see, that works. Good as new. I'll show you on the screen. Switch it off, switch it on. Yeah, so that's working fine. So you can use the, you know, that copper swiper, if you like. It's like you know, it's sort of that shape. It sort of slides up and down the pins as you slide the switch. You can use the one from inside a SNES switch. It's identical. Just make sure you clean the contacts up, like saying if the pins are loose, which means those 3 plates are wobbling as they were in my case, just use a bit of epoxy, make sure they're set as straight as possible, and clean them up, you know, obviously afterwards before you reassemble it. But yeah, that's good as new. So as I reassemble this final one here, I'll make some final points actually. Some of these, the base, as you can see, is like a shiny red plastic rather than you know, the matte sort of coloured. These chip easier. The other thing to pay attention to is when you screw it back together, don't just start sticking your screws in. Like, you could think that that's together now like that, and you could start putting a screw in there. But as you can see on the front here, it's not in. And it varies. You can see someone's chipped it previously before there. It varies between different models of these, depending on how easy it is to get them in. It might depend on the plastic that the bottom piece is made of, I don't know, but you do need to go around it and make sure it's seated on the inner side of that lip there before you start trying to screw it together, or you'll just set yourselves up to crack the case. I'll do the front first, I think. Let's see if I can get the front in. As you can see, it's starting to go in there now. It's stuck at the front here. There you go, it's in there. That's in all the way around. At that point, then you can stick the screws in. But some of the ones that have got little chips and things like this one here, that's exactly what's happened. I mean, it could be that's had a knock as well, but they're very fragile, these plastics, especially when they're yellowed. And when you're putting the screws in here, put a dab of oil just on the screw thread before you put it in. And then if you can, like I've got one of these ones where it's got like a torque setting, so watch, as soon as I get to the end, I can't apply, there you go, see it's just going on its own. I can't apply too much pressure there to that. The important thing is just not to over-tighten them. You'll see, I'll just do it again here with this. Again, I'm just using the automatic torque setting there. There you go. Because they do fracture really, really easy, as you saw previously. I had to stick a cable tie around that post there, I think it is. Any mucky glue marks like that, you can see that's pretty sturdy stuff there. You can't get it off with your fingers. Just a bit of IPA on a rag. Just watch this, it just makes total light work of that. It's gone. See, that's pretty much gone already. You've got to be careful with IPA sometimes with certain plastics, but on these Famicoms it's fine. What it can do is it can dry the plastic out a little bit as well. So afterwards, I tend to use a bit of this. And on certain plastics like blacks and things where you can see streaks and things afterwards, get a bit of that back to black on there. You know, that silicone spray you get for doing plastics on the insides of cars. It's like for car interiors. As you can see, that's looking pretty good. I'll probably just go over that now with a bit of Plastex actually. Just clean up the underneath a bit, but that's not too bad. Yeah, the underneath these things don't really need a clean, but to be honest, it's I've spent that much time doing these anyway in general, why not just give the underneath a bit of a, you can see you get, you know, it goes dirty, you get some of the ingrained dirt out. Careful not to touch the cereal. Any bits you get on the edges and things where it just seeps into crevices and things, you can just get out with a little brush, which is what I'll do in a minute. But as you can see, that's coming up pretty damn good actually. Yeah, hopefully you can see the difference there. That looks really good now compared to what it did. And as I said, if you get any bits of polish, you probably just can't see any, I've got most of it out, you could just get a little brush like this, just go around in a circle or at different angles, and any bits of polish in there, it just comes out. You can see that's yeah, as good as new now. So I got a second set of these sent to me by the designer of these. I suggested some adjustments, you know, an extra 0.5 mm around everything effectively. And I think he's taken that into account. It looks, if I just line this up here, it looks to me like, you know, if you line the edge there, it looks like it's going to be just right to sit into the recess. Not sure about the height, if we just compare it like that there, and line it up. Yeah, it looks spot on. But the gap around the D-pad and the buttons and things looks bigger. So I don't know whether I think he's adjusted it. I didn't think he was going to do that at this stage, but it does look that way. It's hard to judge by eye, but yeah, I think I'll have a go at trying to fit these now, and just see if they're any better. It's done a good job actually of adjusting this, if I'm honest. Yeah, that's not so bad. That's not so bad. Can you see that? That's pretty bloody good actually. It's just, it depends on the rest of it now. I think we'll leave the protector bit on. Let's just try and see if we can feed this bit over here. Yeah, I need a bit of adjustment there, I think. Yeah, this is where you should do it without the buttons and things in there, really. I'm making a right pigs here with this. I did it alright the first time around because I did it with the front off. In fact, before I do any more, let me just take the back off, because you can see that's going on straight and it's looking really well actually. Yeah, so I'm sorry the lighting's not very good in here. You can see this is just very lightly, I've not even stuck it down properly yet. It's just a case now of just using a microfiber like this and just pressing it down. It's glossy as well. He's done it. This is much better. This is much better compared to as it was. That's a significant improvement. I'm very impressed actually. The way I was going to leave this video was, you know, in dissatisfaction really, but yeah, consider me impressed. That's much better. We've got a little bit of a ripple just at the bottom here. I perhaps could have, you know, moved it around a bit to get it absolutely perfect, but to be honest, I'm pleased with that. I don't want to mess with that too much, because overall that's yeah, that's worthy of praise. I think those are good. So yeah, if you want one of those, I'll post some links down below to the seller. Yeah, the print is much better. He's got a glossy print now. It wasn't glossy before. That's really nice. I'm really pleased with that. So I'll do the second one now, but that just looks sweet. That looks absolutely sweet. So see if we can do this one now. This is the easiest way I've found of applying these actually. And again, it's just, you know, it's just taking your time, and you do need to experiment a little bit before you commit to sticking it down. Let's just see how that is. Yeah, that's not bad actually. That's not bad at all. You can see I got a little ripple there just because of the way that I pulled it off, but it's yeah, that's fine. Yeah, much better. And now it's glossy, like I say, something like this makes applying it really, really easy. Wow, really impressed. Those are really nice, sweet. Yeah, I can only just say thanks to the guy really for doing the adjustments I asked for, because he was considering cancelling doing these. I think perhaps because I was one of the first people that perhaps, you know, come back with some feedback of some sort, and obviously he doesn't want to produce things that people are not happy with. But yeah, superb. It's like I say, I think in retrospect, now I know what I'm doing, if I got a second one of these, I think it would be much easier to fit the Player 1 controller, as you saw when I did the Player 2, because you know, you can see just a little bit of rippling just at the bottom there, but that one's perfect, and that was because of the experience I had doing this one. But yeah, the key really is to pull the back off here and separate the clear piece as well that's on the front, and just deal with the label itself. Now that would have been a bit difficult as they were, because as they were previously, you didn't have this glossy finish here, which meant that you really needed the protector on until the last minute almost. But yeah, those are much better now. So here we go, this is all 5 restored. You can see what I meant about putting some tape over there, so yeah, you know, it looks a bit of an eyesore, but then again, the colour sort of blends, and it'll just hold it in one piece, so it won't break. You can see that's the second one. It's interesting, some of these have got this FF. This is an earlier revision, I think. They've got this FF here at the beginning. There's another one there. That one's pretty yellowed. That one's pretty yellowed. Again, tape on the button, bit of a scratch there, and again, yeah. So yeah, they've not come out too bad really. The variations in yellow there. That one's got really brittle plastic, but they've all gone together okay. They're all fully functioning. They're all you know, AV modded, recapped. So this one had the switch fixed. One of them has had 2 new SRAMs, you know, the VRAM and the program RAM replacing. We also had some weird stuff going on where, I think on one of them, it was the one with the RAM actually, where someone had separated the back, you know, the AV power board from the main PCB there, so I had to join that up again properly. But it's been mostly sort of just clean up work, swapping out caps and things, doing the AV mods. You know, the biggest thing, the thing that takes the time really is the controllers. You know, some of these are not in great condition. You know, the underneaths are a bit scratched, or you know, it's like had some heat damage or something there. But actually, the front's, it's not too bad. And you can always swap out the fascias, you know, like I did with this one. So a quick look at the faulty components there. You'll notice there's only one SRAM, so it's a bit of a correction to the first video. Both of them weren't faulty. There's only one of them, so it must have been the program RAM, because we weren't getting any, you know, anything up at all. But you know, they were both corroded, and also a bit of a correction there, I guess, in terms of, you know, talking about that corrosion. You know, I did theorise that maybe something had leaked out from the insides, but as it turns out, on that particular type of chip, there is nothing in there to leak out, I don't think. I think someone was suggesting, a few people actually suggested, that the type of chip where you get what they call an electrolyte trench in there, it's a different type of RAM. So this type of RAM definitely, well, as far as I can gather, definitely doesn't have that. So it must be, I think, and this is something else that other people were theorising on. They were saying it was the coating. It was whatever these chips were coated with was perhaps ionising or something. There was some sort of reaction going on there. So yeah, we'll leave that open for further discussion. It's still interesting that wherever you see that corrosion, typically on these SRAMs, it's always the SRAM that's, you know, the SRAM is usually faulty. But one of them, like I say, got it working. This is the faulty one. Crystal, yeah, swapped that out, showed you that in a previous video. I did get some replacements here from DigiKey, 2 different types. You know, got the low power, the smaller ones here, you know, and then the more, no, they're both low power, they're both LP type crystals. As you can see, but yeah, and they're totally different, so you can just have a quick look at the part numbers there. That's that one, and again, yeah, 21.47727 megahertz, and there's that one. which you can also get from DigiKey. So yeah, I've got some spares there. I'm not going to use them ever probably, but they were pretty cheap, you know. And then obviously the remains of this SNES switch from a faulty board where I'm never going to use the switch, but I was able to take the contact out to fix the switch. So yeah, that's all the parts. Something else I'll point out here as well is these silicons, they're not all the same. I bought loads of these off AliExpress. I'll just see if I can show you one and we'll just compare it. And I got these ones from eBay here, from I think they came from Hong Kong. Now whilst they look identical, and you can be forgiven for thinking they're exactly the same, so I'll keep this one on the left here. If you just put them side by side, it's going to be hard to do this. Try and get it side on. Look at the height that they stand out compared to these ones off AliExpress. So it's bloody hard to do this. If I put a flat background there, you can see, sorry, get it side on, you can see they barely protrude by, I don't know, 1/4 of a millimetre, 1/2 a millimetre. That's why these really cheap ones from AliExpress don't work with the diagonals, whereas if I get this one side on, can you see how much more those stand out? It's twice as much at least. So yeah, these ones, I think they worked out about, I don't know, pound for a set of, you know, one set, a complete set. So I ordered 2 just to see what they were like. Yeah, the better. So yeah, check eBay and look for the seller on, you know, the selling in Hong Kong. I'll perhaps post a link down below to the sort of you know, seller you can buy these from. These have come out absolutely perfect. You know, you can see the glossy. I asked for glossy, and I think the glossy is the best thing, really. You know, and they're protected, these now, so you can't just rub the ink off like you could do previously. And they just fit a lot better. You know, you've got to admit that. I think that looks absolutely sweet. And it does do with different themes, you know, like so you can get a Zelda one and stuff as well. And I think there's another, like a Nintendo 25th anniversary or something, or maybe 30th anniversary. But yeah, I think they are really good. I think he's done a really good job there. So yeah, we're sort of I'm undoing my comments from the previous attempt here, and I would recommend these, highly recommend these actually. I might get some more for some of the other Famicoms I've got here. So I thought long and hard about this before doing this. Now bear in mind I've got 4 of these other Famicoms here. 3 of them I've got really shot faceplates, you know, like this. You can see where it's just all worn off, and they just look an eyesore. So when it comes to me getting rid of these, they're not going to sell, and actually they're not rare. You know, Famicoms are just not rare. If you want to have a go at doing what I've done with these 5 Famicoms in the short series of videos I've done here, you can do the same very cheaply. Just have a look on eBay. You'll pick up these typically for about £10, like, and that's shipped. You know, like the starting price of 99p with like £8 or £9 postage. You'll pay between £10 and £15 for one of these, and they'll always have generally shot fascias. I would say about 10% of them have got perfect fascias, and I will post a link down below. It was thanks to one of my viewers on my previous videos. Actually, he posted a comment showing a site where you can buy brand new fascias, and I don't know whether they're replicas or not, but you know, they look the same, look identical. But I quite like these aftermarket ones. I think they're really sweet. So you can see I've gone with the Zelda one. This is the really yellowed case here. Now it's got a few chips and things, but you know, it's AV modded, it's in perfect working order, and with these new fascias now, bear in mind they've got new buttons and things as well, it looks pretty good. And the yellow kind of goes with the yellow and the plastic, so I figure, actually, I think that's going to make it more desirable to somebody. So yeah, that's that one done. I've got this one now, and I'll just show you a little bit more thoroughly because I've got this down to a T now. We'll just get the screws out of here first. So I've got the buttons and things out there, got the back off. It's the easiest way to do it because the buttons will just interfere when you're sticking the sticker on. Now on the one with the player 1 and player 2, you know, the start and select buttons, the player 1 controller, there's a little hole somewhere here and you can see the inside of the fascia, and you can just push it. I think on this one here it came out here, or so, it was there, must have been there. So that pushed it away and just allows you to easily pull it off. But on the player 2, in fact, you've got it on the player 2 one there as well, it's just got some dirt, can you see that? So you just, you know, use a screwdriver or something just to push through that. As you can see, you can get them off that way. So yeah, like I say, if these were rare, I wouldn't be doing this, you know. If these fascias were in good, reasonable condition, I wouldn't be doing this either. So a bit of IPA, and just go over this and go right into the edges, because it's the edges that accumulate all the dirt. and then just get the D-pad lined up first here. If you can see, use the left hand side as a reference and look at the top part of the D-pad, and it's a bit forgiving. You can just keep pulling this up just until you get it just the right spot. And also, as you stretch it across, look to the right hand side where the A and B buttons are, and just make sure you've not gone too low so that the bottom of the sticker goes too far down, but at the same time just make sure you've got your A's and B's in the right place, and I think we should be okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. Let's try that, and then just try it out a little bit, sort of just press down a little bit and just see whether you've got it in approximately the right place, and I think we're good there. We might be a bit too far on the right hand side here, I think. Yeah, we are. Can you see on the D-pad there? We've just got a bit too much, gone a bit too far right. So if we just carefully just pull this up like that, like I say, it's forgiving. You can actually have another go as long as you've not totally committed. Yeah, that's it. And then just use a dry rag. And I would tend to start in the middle, I think, and then just work your way left. And also work your way right here like this. Yeah, that's looking sweet again, and that glossy finish really does finish these off perfectly. Actually, it's done a really good job with that laminate. Got a bit of hair there, it's just from static, but yeah, that's a pretty good fit actually. I'm quite pleased with that again. That's come out really well, as you can see. Yeah, very impressed. These are sweet. So hopefully you'll agree that those look absolutely fantastic. They look $1 million, they really do. Those just look superb. I'm tempted to keep this myself, it looks so good. And it really goes actually with the yellow of the Famicom there. It's like, if I was going to keep this, I wouldn't be bothered about wanting to retro bright. Actually, it's got a theme going on there with the yellow.